Let me start with introducing Ashit. Ashit is a CXO, a GCC architect, a venture builder, and a certified director. 28 years in the enterprise. He's created ground up organizations. He has founded AI platforms and he has scaled AI platforms across APAC. He has many years of experience and understanding of the AI world. He's been in the industry now for nearly 40 years. And today is here is going to talk about what Gen AI really means for our industry, for our companies, and our workforce. With that clarity, that only comes with someone who has been in the room and actually seeing it happen. Uh, Over to you, Ashit.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Karan. And greetings, everyone. I do understand, people from the different parts of the world could be there in this webinar today. At the outset, once again, thank you so much for finding time to join this webinar. So let me touch upon what is happening in the industry with respect to the AI. Right, I will talk about that. What is the scale? How is the impact on the IT industry? How is the impact on the workforce? And how is the impact on the IT companies as well? Right. So before I go over there, let me just give some kind of preamble. So in the IT trenches where I have spent 28 years, we traditionally measured progress through the headcount and the throughput. Today, those metrics are becoming the liabilities. What we are witnessing is not just a kind of new tool in the set, it's fundamentally rewriting or rewiring of how global business creates the value. We are not just using AI, we are witnessing the birth of the autonomous enterprise. So if you look at the IT industry is not just using AI, it is being rebuilt by it. We are moving away from the factory model of the software, where value was derived from the labor arbitrage or mass execution, towards an architectural model. So in the old world, we built engines. So when I say engines, team of people whose primary value was execution. In the new world, execution is a commodity which is being handled by AI. The new premium is on architects. So when I say architects, these are the leaders who can design systems where human judgment and the machine intelligence work in seamless feedback loop. So if you look at the 2026 reality, it is the orchestration over the management. As I shared the data later part of this webinar, from the $4.4 trillion GDP impact to the 50% of the organizations requiring AI-free assessments, I would just keep one thing in mind: the moat is human. While AI handles the high velocity, low variance routine jobs, the human architect provides the empathy, the ethics, and the contextual wisdom that no model can replicate. If you look at a few years ago, leadership was all about managing people to produce output. In 2026, leadership is all about orchestrating the intelligence. We are no longer asking if AI can do this job. We are asking if our human organization is ready to lead the AI that is already doing it. So every generation has had its own defining technology moment, right? Starting from the printing press to the internet to the mobile, we are living in ours. But this one, the introduction of the Gen AI, is very, very different. Every previous technology made humans more productive, but Gen AI is the first technology that can replace the thinking about itself, right? So as I mentioned earlier, let me just give a little bit of the snapshot about the scale with which or at which it is happening. Gen AI could add almost $4.4 trillion annually. So when I say $4.4 trillion, it is USD. I'm referring to the global GDP. And if you just want to draw parallel, it could be equal to the output of the 6 G8 nations today. Now, 92% of the business plan to increase their Gen AI investment between now and the next 2 years. The generative AI landscape is growing almost at 46% CAGR, and it is expected to reach almost $356 billion by 2030. Now, 89% of the enterprise are actively advancing their GenAI initiatives right now. So these are some of the metrics or some of the data points which talks about the scale at which things are moving with respect to GenAI. Now, if I look at the impact it is creating on the IT industry, which I call as a kind of the great IT SecOp, which is happening. As I mentioned before, the IT industry is not just using AI, it is being rebuilt by it. The old factory model of software is being replaced by an architectural model. So what I mean is that there are two things that in which are disappearing, or rather I would call as a kind of sunset. The labor arbitrage trap. So if you look at the traditional model, the business model of hiring 1,000 people to save 30% on the cost is over. AI can do the routine work faster and cheaper than what you used to call as a kind, the work can be done by the offshore team. Now look at the routine roles. If our job is to write the basic code, do the manual testing, or follow a kind of fixed script, AI is now our direct competitor. Those roles are facing the highest risk of the displacement. While the two things are disappearing, so what is emerging is that, or what I call as the sunrise, the rise of the architect. So we no longer need the engines, right? So when I say engines, these are the people who execute. And if you look at the kind of the pyramid structure, what we used to have, these are the roles which used to sit in the kind of bottom of the pyramid. So now we need the architects. We don't need the engines. So we need the architects, people who know how to design the systems where human and AI work together. Then if you look at the agentic workforce, the second one, we are moving towards a hybrid workforce. So when I say hybrid workforce, this means deploying AI agents to handle the customer support or the cyber security or the data entry, which can free up the human effort for the high-level strategy. So in 2026, if you look at the winning theme, it is not the enterprise with most number of the engineers. It is the one that effectively pairs AI agents with the human architects. Right? We are not just managing people anymore. We are orchestrating intelligence. Having said that, when we look at the impact on the companies, so we realize 32% of the organizations now expect to decrease their workforce size in the coming year due to AI implementation. While I say that, but here is the nuance. It's not about cutting the people or reducing the people. It is all about redeploying them. Gen AI is moving from experimentation to enterprise deployment. The question has shifted from whether to invest to how quickly we should invest. But initial investments in highly touted like Gen AI tools have often fallen short of expected productivity gains. Success requires more than deployment. It demands thoughtful integration into the workflows, employee enablement, and setting the right of the realistic expectations. Now, if you look at the companies, I would say that there are three things that every company must do now. Right? One should be to stop piloting, rather start operationalizing it. 67% of the organizations are prioritizing internal productivity improvements first, but most are still stuck in the pilot mode. Treat AI governance as a board agenda item, not an IT agenda item anymore. Third, but which is very, very important, is that invest in your people or lose them. The share of the employees who feel positive about Gen AI has risen from 15% to 55% with the strong leadership support. Organizations need to establish clear and quantifiable measures, metrics, and the KPIs for prioritized activities and tasks which can be or which are being augmented by the GenAI. Not just track the technology deployment, but measure the workforce productivity and the capacity outcomes. Now, if you look at the traditional model and the kind of the metrics that what you used to track, which today I call that these are the metrics which should retire. So if you look at some of the metrics like what you used to track earlier, these were the head count or the FTE count, what you used to call. Then you used to measure a kind of metrics called like what is the utilization rate. Then you used to say that cost per ticket, or we used to say that what is the lines of the code that what you have written. I see that when 2.5 decades back or 3 decades back, when I used to write the program, there was one metrics we used to call as a kilo lines of the code. We used to call as a KLOC. I think though, and then we also evolved into something called time to delivery. I think these are all the metrics that they should retire. So when I say like these are the metrics that we should retire them, or like they should go away. So what are the new metrics that we should follow? I would say that some of the new metrics what I've been seeing working with the different organizations or the enterprises, there are clearly emerging some of the very different metrics. One is that what can be the outcome per engineer. So when I say that what is the outcome per engineer, it is all about that value is delivered, not that kind of the hours that which we are logging. The other metrics could be that what could be the AI augmentation rate. So when I say AI augmentation rate, we need to define what percentage of the work is being done by the AI or it is being assisted by the AI. Then another metric that what we should be looking at is the time to value, right? So when I say time to value, it is the speed or the velocity with which we move from the kind of the idea to kind of the production. Now, the other metrics could be the cost to serve per unit of the output, right? So it is very, very important. So this is the true efficiency. It is not that kind of the headcount cost like what you should be looking at. Then the other metrics could be AI ROI, right? Return on the investment per use case. This will measure the actual return on each of the AI deployment that what we are doing. Most importantly, like while we talked before as well, today's moat is that the human, right? Anything that we do today, the operating model has to be around the human. Remaining everything is more of a kind of a commodity. So that means one of the key metrics for us would be what is the human judgment ratio, right? So where are the humans like who are not replaceable by the AI? The last thing I would say, like, it is a reskilling velocity, because we do understand that, we have a good amount of the workforce sitting in the organization may or may not be acquainted themselves with the kind of AI or the Gen AI. So we need to see that, how do we reskill them? And we need to track that, velocity with which our workforce can adopt the Gen AI. So the next point that I would like to touch upon is that when we are talking about the Gen AI, so what is the impact on the workforce, right? I think that is a key thing that in which we wanted to discuss, and I'm sure like Karan is going to elaborate further on this in the subsequent session. So one of the 4 workers, if you look at globally, we realize 1 in these 4 workers are in an occupation with some degree of Gen AI exposure, but most jobs will be transformed rather than it will be made redundant. So while more than 3/4 of the leaders and the managers use Gen AI several times a day or every week, regular use among frontline employees, if you really see, it has been stalled at 51%. I think that is creating a very, very dangerous silicon ceiling. I think that this bar needs to move further. Now, if you really see the other point, more than 42% of the employees have not received even the basic communications about GenAI from the companies where they are working for or from their employers, right? And fewer than, or I would say around 30% are receiving hands-on role-specific training from their organization. So to the leaders in the company, the uncomfortable truth I would say is that we are asking our people to adopt the biggest shift in the working life since the Industrial Revolution. And most companies have not been sent a kind of communication or the memo about it, right? So if you look at the workforce, there are three realities I would call. It is augmentation over the replacement. The most successful companies are using AI to make their best people much more effective, not to reduce the headcount. So that is one of the reality. The second reality, I would say that the skill gap is real and it is urgent as well. So if you look at the Gartner report, the Gartner warns that the atrophy of critical thinking skills due to GenAI uses will push almost 50% of the organizations to require AI-free skill assessment by 2026. I will elaborate on this, little later. The third one would be that, the human judgment is the last mode, which I think that, I spoke about in the previous, section as well. So it is the empathy, it is the ethics, it is the leadership, and the contextual wisdom which are required and which cannot be replaced or automated by the GenAI. So when I was referring to the Gartner's atrophy of the critical thinking, so the warning is focusing on the gradual weakening of the mental muscles. Just imagine, just as GPS made us less capable of reading physical map, GenAI can also do the same, or at least it is capable of original synthesis, which the human has, or the ability to take raw and the conflicting data and form a unique conclusion without the AI summary. So this can be done by the human, not by the AI. Then the first principles of the reasoning, right? The ability to identify the edge cases where AI logical pattern will not succeed, rather it will fail. For the human intuition, it will succeed. Then the logical verification as well. So when we over-rely, then it leads to automation bias, where we stop checking the AI's logic because it looks like very professional. And I'm sure, I don't want to name the company, but I'm sure all of you are aware when there was a report which was, created and submitted by one of the big firm to the kind of the Australia government, and what happened, right? And that is where, the logical verification, it failed, right? And that is where, the Gartner says that, we need to look at AI-free assessment, which will involve the whiteboard interviews or the cognitive baseline testing, or the separating engines from the architect. So with this, I would say, what I have learned with the 3 decades I have spent in the, IT industry, and I've been deploying starting from the cognitive automation tool to the chatbots to the GenAI solutions. I would say what I've learned deploying AI across billions of the dollars of the enterprise the operations. I've realized the companies that will win the next decade are not the ones that bought the most of the tools. They are the ones that had the clearest answer to one question: where is human judgment irreplaceable? I would say build the operating model around that. Everything else is a commodity. GenAI is not coming for our job. It is coming for the version of us that refuses to evolve. The question is not whether AI will change our industry. It has already changed or it is changing. The question is whether are we leading that change or are we reacting to it? With this, I will hand it over to Karan. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish.
Over to you,
Just slightly overrun there. Thank you, sir. So everybody, thank you for joining. If you've got questions for Ashish, just please put them in the meeting chat and I'll deal with it in the Q&A in a second. Karan has very kindly, because he does all the introductions, he can't introduce himself. He's very kindly wrote me a 15-minute speech to introduce him. I've been fortunate enough to work with Karan for 10, 12 years. And I'm going to read literally what he's written here. It says, Karan Manga is an ideator and eccentric to the core with 40 years experience, multiple industries, finance, event management, manufacturing, IT, recruitment. He understands the people and landscape. He'd like to thank Adam Wright for his contribution to his career over the last 10 years. He's founded and led a number of businesses with the latest people space. His ideal worlds were humans and technology were ethically. And once again, he'd like to thank Adam Wright for his contribution. So, Karan, you've got 12 minutes.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Ashit. Right, so what I'm going to actually talk about is more on the human side of the AI and the impact on people. I've taken note of the number of areas of interest that you have all shared with us when you registered. We will be addressing all of those areas of interest in the next series of webinars. Today's is focused on what the impact is going to be on human beings. The fact is, we all know very well that AI is here to stay. There's nothing we can do about it. But this is not the first of the changes that we've seen. We've seen global changes like the Industrial Revolution, global mobility. The personal computing was a big one. Then came the World Wide Web and the social media, which we're still struggling to understand and work with. Personally, I think the biggest challenge that AI has is not the impact of the change. Personally, I believe it is the speed at which AI is changing. This is causing confusion, not just in the workforce, but also in the leadership. Ashit had told us about how he, in his leadership position, has looked at and implemented AI across and the challenges that they have faced. Now, I think that's driven because there is a very narrow set of people who are not only creating these solutions, the so-called LLMs, but also the fact that they are the ones who are driving the narrative. Now, we've got a number of leaders here today. Let me start with a discussion that I was at very recently. Now, this was a panel discussion held by Innovate UK. And there were about 12 different leaders from multiple industries, all the way from railways to finance to utilities to infrastructure. The one common theme across board was the impact that AI has on processes and the impact that it has on the business or the business model. Nobody spoke about the impact on human beings. There are a few who have actually raised that topic today, which has said that how do we actually manage the impact on human change? So let's start with the leaders who are here. And it's a theme which I saw recurring in the number of topics that came up. As leaders, I think we are all struggling with a understanding of what AI can actually do. Right? This is what Ashita touched upon. We really are not sure whether AI is going to replace, what outcome does it deliver, what benefits can we do, and a number of questions that came up was, what do I use? How do I use it? Where do I use it? So this is the confusion that the leaders have, and this confusion comes from the fact that we don't have support and access to the right professionals to be able to give us this guidance. But I think the bigger challenge is the pressure that we are all getting from our investors. AI has become a buzzword. Every investor turns around and asks the leaders, right, who's implementing AI? Where's the AI implementation? Show us your AI strategy, without really understanding what it can do. The challenge that has is actually on the workforce, because they are 30,000 miles away from all the decision making. They are 30,000 miles away from all the thinking that we are doing. They probably have less access to the strategic thinking behind AI than we do. Unfortunately, that is also the confusion that folks are facing, including a number of youngsters. So when I talk about workforce, I'm not just talking about the workforce which is currently in play, but I think we should not forget that there is a workforce which is emerging. Those folks who are there in the universities, colleges, who are going to come out today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, there's a lot of confusion over there as to what do I study? What should I prepare for? And then, of course, the wonderful term that we have all been hearing of, FOBO. It's the fear of becoming obsolete. Now, I'm not going to go into the number of researches that have been done by Deloitte, McKinsey, Gartner. I will close out with one particular item, which is from the World Economic Forum. So that is going to give you a very, very different perspective from what we've actually been hearing about. Right now, first off, what happens when the leadership cannot provide the right level of guidance, cannot provide the right level of introduction of AI to its employees? I'll take the example of a fast-growing retail consulting company in the UK. I was sitting with the managing director a couple of days back. He raised 2 or 3 beautiful points. The first one he said is, we are encouraging our employees to leverage AI, to use AI, but they just don't use it. The second point he called out was, we are struggling to understand how folks actually should be using AI. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, this actually pushes down the confusion from the leadership to the rest of the team. Now, when you ask folks to use AI and you don't have a playing field, you haven't set the rules of engagement, employees get confused. What happens if I use AI? What happens if I end up with 30% of my time being available because I have improved my productivity? Will I get fired? Will I get replaced? What is going to happen? They've got no idea because the rule hasn't been set. Then distrust comes in. When one employee is using AI and the other is not, and there has been no training, but there's been just self-trained, so then they do not fully trust the organization. So we have to really start thinking about, how do we make that change? How do we make sure that the people are being taken along? It's a conundrum. Do we first do that with the leadership, or do we first do that with the employees? I don't have an answer today, but I'm sure we will be getting an answer, in the next couple of years at least. The second thing employees have feared is being disenfranchised. Now, where does this fear of being disenfranchised come from? I will have to quote Gartner here. They've got a report out, which is the HR Survey and Future Work Trends of 2026. They say that 37% of the people don't use AI because colleagues don't. Managers experiment with AI more than employees do. So 46% of the managers are actually playing around with the AI, whereas only 26% of the employees play around with AI. Now, How do we actually flip that around? It is up to us, the leaders, to be able to showcase that, you know what? We understand that there is AI. We understand that this can be used. You need to create the playing field. You need to give a clear play card which the employees can use. And you will find that there will be less confusion. There will be more trust. Now, the third factor. This is again a discussion with the CEO of a US food company in UAE. I've been in talks with them for nearly a year today. They have over 200,000 people employed across the UAE and rest of EMEA. They replace about 50,000 people a year. And they have got immense pressure from the board to say, where are you using AI? They have invited nearly about 5 or 6 vendors to come in and look at their workflow and processes. Those vendors have presented different AI solutions. Unfortunately, even at the end of experimenting for a year, they do not have a solution that can show the outcome that they start off with. Now, whether that is because vendors overpromise, or is it AI overpromising? That is something which we are all struggling to understand. And this is a common theme which was coming out of all the topics that are being asked for. I'm not going to address that theme today. That is an address which is going to be done by speakers in the future events, because we will have speakers who understand that and are going to be able to speak in that area. We will invite you for that as well. But today, before I close, the one thing that I want to talk to you about is the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs Report 2025. It says AI is expected to displace 92 million jobs. That's a scary figure. 92 million jobs across the world. In the next line, they say it will create 170 million new ones by 2020. So in 3 years' time, we are looking at job creation as well. So this is a net addition of 78 million jobs. That is a polar opposite of everything that we have been hearing across board and we have been seeing across board. Every day you pick up the paper and you see so many people laid off by AI, so many people laid off by AI. Gartner talks about that. They have put it beautifully. They have said that AI lay off outpacing actual productivity gains. So while you're laying off people, your actual productivity gains is just about 1% of the overall layoff. So that talks about something. So we as the leaders here have to really think about these two numbers. The final number that I want to talk about, 54%. This is from the World Economic Forum, and this is a very trusted report. I'm happy to share the report links after this meeting, and people should go and read all of this. 54% of the executives expect AI to displace existing jobs, and only 24% expect net job creation. So that's where I said polar opposites. Let me close this discussion. From a point of humans in the loop, from a point of people in the game. All of us who are here as leaders who are thinking of either implementing an AI solution, a number of you are searching for solutions and you've asked for it. The one thing that I would request you to do is look at AI in the straightforward manner of human AI collaboration. When you look at it from a human AI collaboration standpoint, you will realize that there are elements that you can look at from a reskilling standpoint and workforce redesign standpoint. Please do not look at AI against efficiency only approach. It will not happen, which is why we are seeing far lower adoption of AI than we had expected. Thank you very much. Over to
Thank
you,
you,
Adam.
Karen.
Questions?
So we've only got 3 questions. We've got a small volume. It's been the first one. I'm expecting when we get 3 figures, 4 figures, depending on how far we go, we'll get a lot more questions. But guys, none of you are shy. If you've got a question, stick it in there. Our first one is for Ashit, who's just about to turn his mic on, which is, what is this? It's from Shane Wenting, which is, what is the single biggest issue we are facing today?
Okay. So Adam, like, is there any kind of the context, like, when we say that, the single biggest issue, is it with respect to the AI adoption?
I don't want to put words in his mouth, and if I unmute him, we'll be here till the cows come home. But I'm guessing out of your 15 minutes, what is the single thing that you would pick out that needs to be addressed today?
Okay. I would say, like, maybe let me just, touch upon, like, what Karan said. Both the worlds are true, right? While we are talking about, like, there is a workforce which is going to be, the number of the workers are going to be reduced in a kind of the company. At the same time, we are talking about the more number of the opportunities, with respect to the workforce. Both are true. While somebody can challenge that, how come both are true? I would say, like, both the things are true in 2 different companies, or with the 2 different set of the companies, and with the 2 different types of the skill. So what I mean is that, if there is a company which is still focusing on the traditional lines of the business with respect to the number of the people, number of the hours that, what they put into the table, or like, they put into the kind of the challenge. So that is a set of the company. And the another set of the companies are the companies which are truly adopting the AI, right? So these are the 2 different kind of the companies. And once again, like, there are 2 different kind of the people, like, there's a people that with the traditional skill, which we have been providing the IT services to our customer. And there is a new gen or the new set of the people who are, to a large extent, adopted the Gen AI into their skill, right? I would say, like, both the things are, like, today, possible, and they are existing. As Karan said, I would say the biggest challenge is that how do we enable the workforce, and how do we keep the people the biggest moat in the solution that we are generating? I would say that.
Fantastic. And it's true what they say, ask an expert for one answer and you'll get 4. Thank you, Ashi. So Karen, next one's from Umat for you, which is, where did you get your interest in the human impact? Or where did it come from?
You know what? When the older you get, the more philosophical you get, the more you lose your interest in worldly things. So you want to leave a legacy behind. You want to leave something that you feel is good. It may not necessarily feel great for people. That's where I think the one thing that we can leave behind is a better world for everybody else. That's where my interest in human comes from. And first off, I'm definitely a human myself, which I don't think Ashit and Adam agree with, but such is the fact. The second thing is that our generation is the one that's actually created this problem, and I think it is for our generation to make sure that we get some kind of resolution.
Okay, fabulous. And the next question is another one for you, Karen. It's more of a comment, but I'd like your comment back on it. Mark says AI doesn't lay off people, shareholders do.
Mark, you're absolutely right. You are bang on. It is stakeholders who do lay off people. It is definitely not AI. In fact, one of the things that we are going to be bringing to this forum and we've got some fantastic people talking about it, is the decision making behind AI. Adam, you can ask me to shut up if I go on too long, but basically what is happening is when AI takes a decision, do you take the server and put it in jail? So you're right. It's not AI which does anything. It is stakeholders that do it.
Okay, let me stop you there. Okay, and you're going to get the next one as well. Sukumaran, apart from technical skills, what other skill sets companies should look at for fresh engineering graduates while recruiting?
That's a very, very complex question because there's no single answer to it. Now, on the one hand, when you have business pressures and you have commercial pressures on an organization, the organization tends to identify those skills and those areas of engineering which are most able to be automated, which are most prone to automation. Don't forget that while AI is purported to be intelligence at this point in time, at the basic level of where we are playing, it is a intelligent automation and not a full intelligent human. So the first set of roles across multiple organizations are the ones that are going to get replaced, are the ones that had automation. Let's kick back to the Industrial Revolution. A lot of those manual roles like picking and shifting were replaced by machines. It's the same with
Karen,
AI. Yeah.
Can I just stop you there? Save that one for the next session. It's basically now when people are recruiting, what should they be looking for?
I would suggest that you should be looking for folks even at the most basic level, because if you don't bring in people at the basic level, you're not going to have a layer which is going to grow up into the more senior levels. So I would not say that replace the bottom layer.
Okay. Next one's from Dan. Ashit, can I throw this at you? Do you see the displaced workforce retooling like with the last wave of factory automation, or is there no clear path for these displaced workers?
Okay, thanks, Adam. I wouldn't say there will be a kind of displacement. I would say which is a reskilling which is required for the workforce, what we see at the bottom of the pyramid, who we anticipate that they are going to be displaced. I would say how well and how fast they can adopt the AI, and then they can move into the kind of next role. That is what I would say.
Okay, fantastic. And the next one, and the last one that's on the list, folks, if you've got any more questions, get them in while this answer's going in, otherwise we'll close early. This is from Russ. I recognize the challenges, but it is trying to understand the required strategy and solutions. Which companies are succeeding with AI and what are they doing differently? Ashit,
yeah,
it's for you.
Thank you, Adam. So I would say once again, a very interesting question, but I wouldn't have a kind of the silver bullet or golden answer for this question, because many of the organizations are at the different levels of adopting the AI, right? But I think what I see the challenge with most of the companies is that finding the kind of the right kind of the use case, because most of the companies are trying to adopt the AI, as Karan said, it is to improve the efficiency, right? Or the kind of the productivity, but they are not finding the use case which will help them with the other avenues of the business as well, right? So from that context, I would say there are different companies trying to adopt, but most successful companies, what they are trying to do is that they are they are trying to train their workforce. I think that which is important. Second is that the communication, what the company is trying to do with respect to the AI and how they are able to percolate it down to the employees, saying that what is expected out of them and how well they should adopt the AI, right? So I think these are the two areas I see the companies are trying to do well and have been succeeding well in this.
Can I just add to that, Adam?
Yes, of course.
All right. So I was again, this is a meeting with an architect, with the chief architect of a finance company here in London. And this was a point that we had a discussion on as to what is actually going to be the success criteria for an AI implementation. Now, Arshit touched upon a very, very important point, which is use case. Now, without a qualified use case, without actually having written out the complete use case and understanding the architecture of that use case, if you are going to implement the AI solution, you probably won't get too far. Second, most folks or most companies that have failed because they have not worked with an expected outcome, right? Now, the way I see it is, again, not a golden bullet. The way I see it is that we have the knowledge. The knowledge sits in our ability to create the business cases. We used to create phenomenal business cases, and then we would map deliveries against those business cases. So we knew what the expected outcomes were. We knew where we were headed and where we were going. Unfortunately, for some reason, most companies have thrown those business cases for AI out of the window.
Yeah,
I think that might be one of the things we should bring back, but it is again, don't have a clear answer to that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Karan. And our last question for today is, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Jan. Karan, I'm going to throw this at you. It's a bit of a challenge, but do computer science degrees help in the current job market that demands AI proficiency?
Who's this question from?
Doesn't matter.
All right. That's a very, very challenging question because it could affect the career of somebody. You see, getting a university degree is like getting your if you're getting into on a racetrack, it's making sure that your engines is at full throttle, your tires are good, you've got a good strong engine to win the race. Fine. Now, if you get into a car race on a bicycle, you're definitely not going to win it. It is not the key criteria that it's a computer engineering degree, but the important thing is that you have a certain level of education, because it is the application of the education you have in the area and the field that you're going to work in. AI is pervasive across the number of industries. It is not limited to one industry. AI is just a level of intelligence which can be applied across board, be it healthcare, retail, manufacturing, aerospace, defense. You talk about it, it is there. So when you've decided to do a degree, once you need to do a degree, you make sure that you do it and you align your path to what's coming in the future.
Okay, thank you, Karan. I'm going to do the last two. And these are the last two we've got time for, folks. Really appreciate your inputs. I'm going to do them out of order because I'm going to give Karan's mouth a rest for a second. So this is from Marta Shi. This is for you. The developing world may have difficulties adopting AI quickly until the underlying conditions improve. So connectivity, data hygiene, process improvements. Do you feel there's any advantage to early adopters, or is it beneficial to miss the first wave?
Yeah. Thanks, Adam, for the question. So I would agree that there is a really early adopter advantage with the AI, but for less mature forms in the developing markets, it is usually wiser to be selective early adopters than either to rush into it blindly, right? I would say what early adopters gain, they gain on the capability and the the culture of the compounding. They get the productivity and the efficiency uplift, and also they have the ability of the learning curve and the IP that what they can adapt quickly, so that they can avoid that late adopter pain. So that is what I would say, what the early adopters they get the benefit, right?
Okay, and the final question, Karan, for you is from Charles. You mentioned earlier that stakeholders are adding a lot of pressure on companies to have an AI strategy and implementation. However, this comes back to asking what AI can actually do. what are the expectations are for implementation and strategy. These are also the same stakeholders who are quick to lay off workforce without really understanding the impact and ability of AI as well as expectations. What's your comment on that?
You put me on the spot, Charles. You really have put
I
me on
did.
the spot on that one. Yeah, you're right. How do I answer that? Right. So, okay, first off, the stakeholders. Yes, the stakeholders are the ones who are taking decisions, and the pressure is commercial. The pressure comes from a set of investors who are looking at profits. Whether we like it or not, we are in a commercial economy, and profits are demanded by that commercial economy. Are we looking at the implementation strategy right? This is something that I will have to bring more professionals into the fray and into the discussion. I'm not going to be able to answer that specific question for you, but I can give you my two-bit. My two-bit is that some organizations have really got the bull by the horn. They have understood what they expect the AI to do. They look at what displacement there is going to be in terms of the workforce. They look at whether they are trading the workforce displacement with productivity improvement. They look at the business impact of the future. Right? So the AI strategy is not a technical strategy. An AI strategy is an element of the commercial. It's an element of people. It's an element of the business strategy for the future. It's an element of the industry strategy. Now, if you take a strategy that you're not going to implement AI, but your industry is actually implementing AI, then whether you like it or not, you'll become one of the Kodaks in the world. So the whole, that's where the word you've used, strategy, is actually a strategy. It is not just about looking at it in a black and white mode, saying that, right, this is what I'm going to do and this is not what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Last point.
Absolutely.
You said, sorry, one second, Ashit. So last point you said is that quick to lay off workforce. I'm not sure I actually agree with the media at this particular point in time. I think a lot of organizations are under the guise of AI are just restructuring their organizations, for a better word. Right? And that's where it comes back to the point where Gartner has also pointed this out. So I'm not alone in my thinking. It's only afterwards, when I started doing research, I realized that there are other organizations also talking about the same challenge. So yes.
Okay. Karen, can I just pause you there, because we're going to wrap up in a second. Ashit, you look like you wanted to jump in for a second there.
Hey, thanks, Adam. I was just trying to complement what Karan was saying. So I would certainly agree that there is immense pressure from the stakeholders right now to show an AI strategy, right? But we must be very careful, because many are confusing cost cutting versus the value creation, right? There is a dangerous layoff reflex, which is happening, where companies are cutting human talent before they are even mapped to the AI workflow, in which Karan just outlined that as well. They are burning the old bridge before the new one has already been built, right? I think as leaders, our job is to manage the stakeholder expectation. The first part, which is all about the AI strategy, and reminding them that AI is a tool for the augmentation and not for the kind of the premature layoff, without understanding the AI's actual boundaries, which is a kind of perfect recipe for the operational failure, I would say. I'll pause here. Thanks, Adam.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Karen, if you want to quickly wrap up, we've got 2 or 3 minutes left, and that's it.
Once again, thank you all very, very much for giving us your time. I hope this has been useful. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is not just one-off event. What we are looking at is a series of events bringing in industry professionals, addressing the different elements. Now, all of you have shown certain interest. Some of you have also shown interest in speaking at the future events. We will be getting in touch with you, and we will share the complete the agenda of the next set of events. We will hold an event every 3 weeks with a new subject. Please continue to share subjects subsequent to this webinar. You've got my email address. You've got the email address of the event. Just send us a note. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Arshit, for your time.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Thanks all the participants for finding time to join this webinar. Thank you so much. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Karan.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.